Hey there, Kimmer here. I'm about to show you how to do your very first C program using Dev C++. I'm assuming that you've already downloaded Dev. So once you do, this is what you will first see. First thing I want you to do is go up to File and say New. Now for the duration of this particular course, we're going to go ahead and choose Source File. Project will be used probably for a different class. You'll notice the very first thing it does is it gives you an untitled file name. So what we're going to do, we'll save that in a minute, but the very first thing I want to do is to put in comments. Now, don't worry, because I'm going to go over all of these things. The purpose of this particular video is just to show you how to save it, compile it, and run it using Dev C++. So the very first thing I'm going to do is throw in my name. Now comments are like notes, so we can put in whatever we want as long as we start it with 2 forward slashes. So my first Hello World program. Okay, next thing I would need you to do is to put in a hashtag or # or $, whatever you want to call it, and then the word include, because we're about to include a file. So you'll notice that with the include statement, I'm going to use these angle brackets. And in between the angle brackets, we're going to put the file name that we're about to include. This particular file that we need is called the standard stdio for input-output.h for header file. So stdio.h. It is a header file. I'll explain what that is later. Now, word of caution here. Your fingers are going to want to type a real word. So sometimes students will do this. Notice that it's the word studio, S-T-U-D-I-O. Your fingers are going to want to do that. So be careful. Make sure that you're actually doing standard input-output. Next thing I need you to do is type the word int, followed by a space, and then the word main. Notice the parentheses. Hit enter. A couple of returns. 0. So you'll notice a couple of things. You'll notice the color coding. You're going to notice that the comments are in blue, the include is in green, main has parentheses in red. There's some red in there. There's some bolded int and return, some reserved words. That's perfectly normal. I'll explain all of it eventually, but what I want you to do is then type in a print function. In order to type in a print function, we're going to use what's called the print F for print function. The F stands for function. You'll notice something about the parentheses. Every time we use a function, we're going to include parentheses. Notice that there's parentheses in main here too. Okay, so inside the parentheses, we're going to give it a string. Now a string is denoted by a double quotation. And we're just going to say hello world. A couple things else to note. End it with a semicolon. So this is your first Hello World program. Now, one thing you can do, the very first thing you should do is save. I know we're so used to saving. Don't rely on it automatically saving. Just save it yourself every time. First time, though, it's going to ask you for a name. So I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to call it Hello World.c. Now, if you don't put the .c, it's going to automatically put CPP, which stands for C++. It won't make a difference if you do, but if you think about it, go ahead and add the .c to it. Make sure you know where you're saving it in. So I have a particular folder that I know exactly where I'm saving it in, so make sure. Go ahead and click Save. Next thing we're going to do is to compile. Now, you can use the little color-coded thing here, or if you like to use keyboard shortcuts, you can use your F9, or you can go up to execute and then choose compile. Whichever way you want to do it is fine. I usually just go ahead and do this, or I hit the F9 personally. Now you'll notice at the bottom it'll see compile log. It'll show you if you have any errors or warnings. Currently, if you have warnings, I wouldn't worry about it in the beginning anyway. What we're most concerned about are errors or syntax errors. So if you have any errors, a couple things I want you to check out. Make sure you have your open close curly braces. Make sure you have a semicolon right here and right here. Also, because C is case sensitive, make sure this isn't a capital P, and make sure that this isn't a capital M. And of course, make sure you didn't say the word studio here. As long as it compiles, then the next button here will run it. Now when you run it, it's going to give you a console output, and you will see hello world. And then it'll say process ended after so many seconds with a return value of 0. That return value of 0, that's a good thing. We want to see that. So this is your output. Okay. Now you've created your first hello world program. Good job. We'll explain all the rest of it later, I promise.